First things first, Neil. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Yeah, everything's good. Working hard. Looking forward to gigs in Amsterdam, in the Paradiso.
Well, I'll get to the Paradiso gig in a minute, but first I want to start in the beginning. And, well, you're an avid record collector, I believe?
Yeah. If you look around the house, there's vinyl everywhere. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I suppose that was my schooling in music was buying records and starting when I was 15 and 16.
Do you remember what started it off? Which record?
Yeah, no, the first record I ever bought actually was, I can remember it quite clearly, it was a record by T-Rex,
Okay.
20th Century Boy. I've still got it, it's amongst in my 7 inches, and I remember writing on it Neil's first record.
Okay.
And I suppose I do come from a musical family, but my brother was a violinist, and my father actually made pianos originally. But the house itself wasn't a house where you heard much modern music, and I suppose it was a combination of being at a school which was quite where music was very important.
Right.
We discussed music a lot, and we were obsessed by the culture of the time, which was all types of things. For originally things like T-Rex, and then David Bowie, and prog rock as well. And I dipped into all those areas, and that sort of started sort of the obsessional record collecting. I mean, not obsessional, but a great interest. So I've got a big record collection, which isn't in the flat actually, but I keep. And I've got an enormous reggae collection, which hundreds of records, which and now, because I do a lot of DJing, I buy an awful lot of techno and house and various forms of dance music, and and I'm always on the lookout for something different and new in all forms of music. So I listen to jazz and jazz as much as anything else.
Okay. And well, you mentioned the reggae influence.
Yeah.
What was it? And that has been pervasive throughout the music that you've made. What attracted you to reggae music?
When I first heard reggae, it was a friend of. I mean, obviously, all the music I was listening to up until then is like new wave and punk, and where the bass, there isn't much bass. There's a sort of rock. There's a sort of rock sound to it. And I had a very close friend who actually took me to a record shop and introduced me to reggae. Okay. I mean, I was listening to things like Elvis Costello and stuff like that, and I thought I was really cool and I knew what I was talking about. And reggae for me was Bob Marley, and which is wonderful, and things like that I'd heard on Top of the Pops and things like that. I didn't really know anything about music like that, and then I got introduced to it, and for some reason the sort of extremity of it, the heavy bass and the heavy treble, the long records, the I mean, it was there already. I mean, it was happening with me at the same time as I was listening to things like Joy Division, which were also quite unusual and powerful. I think it was the sort of combination of power and melody that drew me in, and the sort of bravery of it, and the fact that it was not a culture that was that I knew directly, but it was something that I found fascinating. And it was also anti-establishment, exciting. You felt like you were part of some special area that nobody else was. And in those days, when you bought a record, if you didn't buy it then, you'd never see it again. There were no CDs or any other means. So you felt like you were buying something that was really exciting. I mean, at the same time as reggae, I was listening to good disco.
Okay.
And I'd gone through that at school. So I was the first records I probably bought that were 12 inches were long disco records.
Okay.
I mean, which I've also got an awful lot of, and I return to every now and again.
At that time, when you were gathering these records and kind of educating yourself on music, did you think about making music yourself?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, we were all in bands.
Okay.
You know, I was in a new wave punk band. My friends were in bands. You know, a group of my friends became Spandau Ballet. Okay, so I was very attached to the world of music, and you know, I was musical, even though I did a little bit of violin. I got to a certain level, and I had this sort of yearning to express it, and I started playing sort of guitar in a sort of band that was quite Public Image limited. So that also was the heavy bass and the extreme music, which I seemed to be, you know, very quickly in touch with and in tune with.
Yeah, you mentioned the word anti-establishment.
Yeah.
So what was the appeal of this, and kind of?
Well, it was a really political time, you know. When you look back on it, you know, there was a whole. We were all drawn into the anti sort of fascist type of thing at college. You know, we were Rock Against Racism and stuff like that. That, you know, we were aware of the danger of right-wing groups and things like that. And the music seemed to have a political message, which was either, you know, extreme or looking for a different form of life to the one that we saw everywhere. And, you know, music felt, you know, you felt like you were part of something exclusive and just, you know, a small group of people following something, and you felt like you were in this little club that only, you know, we used to go to dances where reggae people were playing, and the bass was so heavy. It was, you know, incredible sound systems that you didn't get in rock gigs, and that, you know, that influenced me massively. You know. So
it's very much the sonic quality of certain equipment and.
Yeah, no, the sonics of reggae always fascinated me. I mean, I've still got records that, you know, the bass on them has never been matched.
Right.
You know, that some of the productions and the producers that were around in the 70s and that, and what they've done, is still radical now when you play it, and it's still ahead of its time and brave. And I think for some reason it just drew me in and made me think about music. I mean, not only that, but the stuff like that was coming out of New York, the early hip hop stuff, the African Bambaataa as well. I was into dipping into a lot of this, and I was part of an unusual group of people in that we weren't allied to any one form of music. I mean, there was four of us, and we used to go to gigs nearly every night, and we'd go and see Misty and Roots, which is a famous reggae band, or Black Uhuru reggae band one week, and then we go and see Talking Heads the next week.
Right.
You know, and we followed great disco records as well. So I just liked good music. I mean, I'd appreciate chic at the same time as I'd appreciate some sort of obscure London reggae band like a guy called Pablo Gad, who not many people will know about. But, you know, my fingers were in, you know, I was interested in just the overall sound of the underground, I think, and that carried on.
This is going to be a terribly difficult question then, but for you, what makes good music, or what makes a good song?
What makes a good record is a combination of a sonic balance and a unique and unusual approach, and that can happen in all forms of music. In my day, when I was younger, things like, I mean, pop records could do exactly that. It wasn't just coming out of the undergrounds, but I think a good record is something that makes you think about something in a different way,
right, and
it has to take me emotionally somewhere, but every sound in it has to have its correct place. And I was unaware of what was happening to me, but I was analysing music from a very early age, and was very, very sure of what I liked and what I didn't like immediately, and was quite, you know, argumentative and annoying about my tastes, you know, and would disagree quite vehemently about records, and I knew exactly where I was.
Okay.